It's a pretty flash spot, hey? So, oh, the sun, it's beautiful.
Melbourne girl Jess Van Zeil acts like a typical bubbly and bright 20-something.
Enjoying a little bit of sunshine and blue skies. And Dad's rolling me around.
She absolutely loves life, even though she's battling a rare and aggressive melanoma.
I was in South Africa when I actually got diagnosed. I was meant to be spending 8 months over there. I wanted to get my scuba diver instructor licence and I wanted to volunteer.
But her dreams of diving and volunteering on a backpacking holiday had to be put on hold.
I still wanted to stay. I didn't want to give up my dream of going and doing my scuba diving.
You had that 21-year-old bulletproof attitude by the sound of it.
Yeah, I've still got that attitude.
Instead, she was faced with an agonising decision: lose her eye or lose her life to the aggressive melanoma.
I wasn't going to just give up because I didn't want to look different.
You wear a mighty fine eye patch.
Oh yes, I've got about 50, all different colours.
Depending on your mood?
Depending on my outfit.
Of course. Typical male.
But Jess, despite her woeful bad luck, counts herself as one of the fortunate ones. What you're looking at here is a cancer ward, specially designed by young cancer patients for young cancer patients. It's a place adolescents can go when they just don't fit in on the hospital ward.
This is all going on and then UCAN comes into your life.
Yeah, it's a haven. It's what it is.
And Jess's video diaries show how much better the cancer battle can be if you're allowed to act your age.
And then to come into this beautiful setting, it's a relief.
Jess and her family believed she'd won her cancer fight until she learned the melanoma had returned, this time to her brain.
I think it was the first time that I've really admitted to myself that, yeah, the cancer's back and I'm not well.
I had to see an oncologist and he sat there and said, there's no way that you can get away from this. Melanoma kills. Now I've got melanoma on the brain and it's not a good place to have melanoma, that's for sure.
But that's about it. And that's the extent of the loss of hair, which is quite nice.
Right now, after emergency brain surgery, she's had to learn to walk and move freely again.
Today I got moved to my 5th hospital.
Jess, at just 23, is a hospital veteran.
And I hijacked a wheelchair.
This type of cancer is rare in young adults, so Jess often found herself rooming with much older and dying patients in adult hospitals, dominated by the elderly.
It was awful. I went to sharing with 3 other elderly people because it was the neurosurgery ward, which is where most people have strokes. It's an elderly ward. And then the last hospital I was at was another rehab centre, but I was the youngest by 60 years. And
No man's land.
Yeah. You just get lost and you get swept into that. You're an adult, you should be able to look after yourself. It's like, well, actually, I live with my parents. I live at home. So for me, it's normal to be surrounded by my family, my support network, and I need that. I need that to get through this.
Young people 10 years ago were very much missing in the middle. They were missing from both children's services and missing from adult service. There was a void.
Professor Susan Sawyer from the University of Melbourne is one of the country's leading advocates for adolescent health.
Come a huge distance in the last 10 years in terms of treating young people with
She says we're treating young, sick people better than in the past, but we could still do more to protect adolescents going through the worst health crisis they'll ever face.
I don't think we should be exposing them to unnecessarily scary environments where, for example, there are older demented patients who at night themselves are very confused and making young people themselves quite fearful. These are I suppose it's scary enough for young people experiencing their own fears of their own potential deaths and mortality, let alone when they're seeing it lived out in others around them.
Been working okay?
Yeah, I drive up.
Can a centre such as this improve survival rates in young people with cancer?
Peter, I think that's the multi-million-dollar question at the moment. Certainly the experience is if we can better meet young people's and families' needs in this age group, then we will see far better health outcomes, far better engagement once the cancer treatment is completed as well. And I think that's in everyone's best interests.
When I was diagnosed, they wheeled me up to level 10, which was where the haematology ward was. The youngest on the ward, youngest everywhere you go.
Rachel Wooley was 17, about to sit her final Year 12 exams and dreaming of a career as a musician when doctors broke the awful news. They'd found a tumour the size of a tennis ball under her sternum and she'd have to start chemotherapy immediately.
What's chemotherapy like?
It's shit. It's pretty bad.
You look beautiful there.
It was a wig.
How important was your school formal?
It was very important. When I was wheeled in, you know, everyone was just so happy I was there.
Did you feel a sense of isolation when you were in hospital that perhaps you were on your own? That
Oh, definitely, yeah. You feel isolated and just not the way a 17-year-old should feel.
Unlike Jess, Rachel didn't have access to a UCAN cancer centre.
Well, it was the first time I experienced hospital ever. Like, I've never been sick before, ever. So even just being in a hospital was pretty daunting.
She never met another young patient and at 17 was barely old enough for an adult system dominated by elderly patients.
And suddenly you're in an adult hospital as a teenager wondering what the future holds.
Yeah. You know, it is very confronting and shocking, and especially when you see, you know, someone who passed away in the next room, you know, his body wheeled past your door. It's pretty confronting. In the bed next to me, there's, you know, a prisoner who's handcuffed to the railing of the bed, and two police officers are just standing there watching him. But
so not a pleasant experience as a teenager in an adult hospital.
No, not at all. And it's just terrible.
Sydney's UCAN Centre will open at the Prince of Wales Hospital later this year for young people just like Rachel. 26-year-old Jimmy Marquette from Perth loves to go fast. Out here, speed is his therapy.
What's it do for the soul?
Yeah, it's healing for my soul. It's just giving me spark. It gives me a bit of life back.
When you are letting loose, are you actually thinking about cancer at all?
Not one bit. I'm thinking about the road about 200 metres in front of me, and that's it.
Jimmy was first diagnosed with cancer at the tender age of 5. He battled and won his fight against leukaemia and raced into life. But at 23, he relapsed.
I was pretty riddled with it. My right hip, my right knee, my sternum, T12 in my back, some on top of my skull as well. So yeah, it wasn't a great doctor's appointment.
Jimmy's had to stare down cancer twice, but he was one of the first Perth patients to experience a UCAN Cancer Centre. For Jimmy, that was the standout hospital experience.
How do they stack up? How do they compare?
Worlds apart, they really are. Being a child, although some of the decisions were included me, they were always talking to my parents. Then as an adult, just being brought into emergency and going through, put on a random ward because there's not enough beds or bits and pieces, you feel like you become a number.
Jimmy's now in remission, but the exercise physiology program and a chance to socialise with people his own age see him regularly return to UCAN.
Everyone can have a joke, and no one looks at you differently. You might have half your hair, half of it's falling out, and no one blinks an eyelid. It's not a dreary death sentence of some sort of ward that's dimly lit and miserable.
I make sure I watch the sunset when I want to. I take time for myself every single day.
Jess Van Zeil's cancer battle is far from over, but with the help of UCAN, her fight is just a little bit easier.
If I want to do something, I'm going to do it, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and I don't have regrets because I take every opportunity I'm given.